General Grievous typically has a pretty neutral duel with Obi-Wan, being the fact that Obi-Wan is able to take a lot of damage as well as Grievous if the right cards are used. Grievous can also dish out a lot of damage to counter Obi-Wan's insane health regen. Overall though, I believe this fight to be pretty neutral in the sense that they're able to dish out around the same amount of damage and take in the same amount as well, with force abilities that work pretty good in tune with each other. Anakin and Grievous also have a pretty neutral duel. This more so in the sense that Anakin and Grievous could do around the same damage when certain star cards are applied, ones that pertain to the lightsaber, being able to do way more damage but have less stamina, so they both kinda will lack stamina in that regard, with damage being able to assist them. Grievous and Anakin also can combo their abilities together to lead up to high levels of damage that you can't escape. Take for instance the Claw Rush. If you're able to time it perfectly, you can knock someone over and get up before they do, and even counter them with a Thrust Surge if you want it. Grievous, however, has a very clear disadvantage against Luke players, being the fact that Luke just has a higher stamina and speed than Grievous, able to swing faster and counter him pretty easily. Count Dooku absolutely destroys Yoda in a duel, being that he just swings highly faster than him and is able to counter him on multiple levels. For starters, he's able to stop Yoda's health regen completely, rendering it pretty useless as an ability, and his damage output far supersedes Yoda, able to easily counter him whenever he makes an attack. Same kinda goes for Luke. Though Luke can match Dooku more in speed, he leaves himself way too open to an attack for most of his abilities, allowing Dooku to kinda chime in and just chip away his health. Yeah, you're quick. Yo, that hurt. Dooku, however, has a disadvantage against Rey in my opinion, simply because of Rey's enhanced close combat ability, being able to counter and keep Dooku on his toes from using his lightning stun. Being able to counter and keep Dooku on his clothes, being able to counter and keep Dooku on his toes in fighting combat, and keep his lightning stun more at bay. Constantly being mind tricked, Rey is able to match Dooku also with his 3 dashes, so in which Dooku has no clear advantage over Rey, though in close combat Rey takes this here, with her dash strike being able to simply put Dooku down. Darth Maul, being very fast and agile fighter, is able to have a pretty good fight with Luke who can match his intensity. Both of them being fast-paced fighters and having uniquely fast abilities makes this a pretty good duel overall. Contrary to his duel with Rey, in which he's able to counter Rey in pretty much all activities. Maul's spin dash renders Rey's downstrike pretty useless, especially considering the fact that when you do hit him with it, you're not going to be able to get too many hits off as it flies him pretty far across the map. Maul also just has a way faster combat speed than Rey and is able to play both long distance and short range. In short range, he speed blitzes Rey, and long distance, Rey doesn't have any, so she's left on the defensive. Overall, though, I feel Maul has an advantage in this type of duel. Maul, however, does have a counter in Obi-Wan, in where Maul does fight faster than Obi-Wan. However, Obi-Wan can take enough damage in order to deal Maul what he needs to. Beating Maul in close range combat, most times this puts Maul on the defensive and using his long range abilities, though Obi-Wan can close the gap with useful moves like his defensive dash and mind trick, rendering Maul's abilities useless. Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the best duelists in the game, being able to easily maneuver and deal a lot of damage as well as take it. Great fight that Obi-Wan has is with Count Dooku and Grievous, as where in Dooku he's able to dish out and take as much damage as Dooku is able to do, as well as Dooku being evasive enough to deal the same to Obi-Wan. Similar to Dooku and Grievous, enough damage is dished out on both parties and received for it to be a pretty good duel. Moves can be used in conjunction with each other or not, and they can both play at a ranged or a close combat fight. Overall, pretty even duel between Grievous and Dooku Obi-Wan has. As we mentioned earlier, I believe Obi-Wan to have an advantage against Maul, simply because he can dish out and take as much damage as Maul can. In close combats, he pretty much beats him pretty soundly. And Maul, without his abilities, it's hard to fight against an Obi-Wan. Now, Obi-Wan does have a weakness in Kylo Ren. Reason being is Kylo Ren is able to break the mold of Obi-Wan's defense and keep his constant pressure on him with moves like his frenzy. He also has very good force abilities that are able to keep Obi-Wan on his toes. Similar combat speed they do have, however Kylo Ren has a very particular lightsaber style which is able to counter Obi-Wan's kinda easily when dueling. Luke Skywalker easily counting people such as Kylo and Grievous simply because of his high damage output and speed and seamlessly infinite stamina. This is particularly bad for Kylo since his repulse and force abilities would render his frenzy attack useless and he's forced to fight Luke on the defensive. However, with Luke's infinite stamina gauge and fast combat, it's hard for Kylo to keep up.
Kylo's parries are terrible. Yeah. I got railed by wow, good hook swing.
Grievous probably has a better chance than Kylo, however, with the stamina difference, it's hard for Grievous to match that. Luke, however, isn't invincible and has a similar weakness that Yoda does in Count Dooku, in which Luke makes himself pretty vulnerable for Dooku's attacks. Though he's just fast as Dooku, his attacks are way too expressive and allow him to be attacked pretty easily. Not a lot of health regen on his part either. A good duel between Luke is him and Maul. They have very fast, high fighting abilities, and their moves are meant for speed and high damage quickly. Glass cannons, if you will, since their health regen isn't the best either. But when they duel each other, it's pretty good.
Epic string of takedowns Yoda has.
Master Yoda, being regarded as one of actually the worst duelists in Battlefront, but contrary to that belief, he can be very good if used the right way. He is a very solid counter to Kylo Ren, especially because he can render his frenzy useless, and his health regen stops any type of damage Kylo Ren will do. Putting constant pressure on him with his dash strikes, Kylo Ren's health takes a beating here, and it's hard for the Grand Master to really get hit. Kylo Ren's slow speed swinging also doesn't help in this case. Yoda has a great fight with Maul. Even though Maul is much faster than Yoda, Yoda is able to counter him with the amount of damage that he does, countering Maul's spin attacks with his dash strikes, and force pushing him when he's open can leave Maul very rendered helpless. The same case though is if Maul uses his force choke and catches Yoda. He can get some high damage off if he does. Yoda shares a weakness with Luke and Count Dooku, especially the fact that Count Dooku is able to deal out an extreme amount of damage to Yoda as mentioned earlier, and Yoda does a lot of moves that leaves him vulnerable. His health is also countered by Dooku's other attack. Kylo Ren, actually being one of the better duelists, has a clear advantage over Obi-Wan in his damage dealing and force using abilities. Able to keep applying the pressure on Obi-Wan with frenzy attacks to render Obi-Wan's health useless, he comes as a very shockingly surprise to the counter. He's also a bit faster than Obi-Wan in terms of combat and swinging speed, so he's able to take the advantage there as well. Similar to Grievous though, he has the weakness within Luke. The fact that Luke is able to instantly counter his frenzy attack and most of his abilities. Swinging faster with high and more stamina, Luke is a definite problem from Kylo Ren. Ren, ironically enough though, has a pretty good fight with Rey, since they're able to deal around the same amount of damage to each other, and the fight mostly comes down to who's able to hit who first, making it a good duel between the two.
Obi-Wan's gonna kill me.
Anakin, being one of the best characters in the game when he's not buggy or stuck in his heroic might of course, has a clear advantage over Kylo Ren, simply because his force abilities counter his frenzy, but differently than Luke, Anakin can counter his abilities and combine them actually much easier. and a mistimed frenzy or a swing could render Kylo Ren in a loop of force abilities he can't exceed out of. Anakin overall is a very good duelist, with pretty alright stamina reserves, damage output, and health. No clear weakness for Anakin either. Wouldn't say anyone necessarily counters him that easily. However, if he gets stuck in his heroic might or any bugs, then everyone pretty much can. But a good Anakin can't be beat.
Allow me to be more direct.
You are as clumsy as you are stupid.
Darth Vader is clearly the best character in the game. Lightsaber duelist as well. But just overall, high damage output and can take a lot of damage, as well as the best force abilities in the game. Darth Vader is unmatched by anyone. No weakness, every advantage you can imagine.
You are as clumsy as you are stupid.
Anakin, like most players, have a problem against Vader. However, he has a particular flaw in which his stamina reserves and certain attacks don't really do too well against Vader. He's often left open, or his ballerina swing isn't able to do enough damage to counter him. It also may put him in his position where he gets hit with a lot of abilities because of things like that. Ironically enough, Anakin has the worst time with Vader. And just as the irony moves on, Obi-Wan also has the best chance against Vader. Despite Vader being better than Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan is able to take a lot of damage and take away Vader's most powerful abilities, rendering the fight sometimes all about who's actually the better duelist.